All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Johns Hopkins School of Education, Doctor of Education virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also presenting today, we have Dr. Camille Bryant, Professor and Interim Director of the Doctor of Education program. And also today we have a current student, Kaitlyn Moore, who will be sharing about her SOE experience. Before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take a second to see if your mic is on mute. In addition, please turn off your video at all. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so please type your question in the chat box, and Dr. Brian and I will read and answer your questions. And lastly, be sure to have your first and last name. We are taking attendance today. I would like to share the agenda for today's virtual webinar. We will kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Then Dr. Brian will introduce herself and discuss an overview and detail and go over the details of the Doctor of Education program. Then current student Kaitlyn Moore will share more about her experience in the EdD program. And lastly, I'll wrap it up with the admissions requirements and leave the floor open for questions at the end. To start, so quick facts about School of Education. We are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. For school enrollment, we have approximately 2,608 students. Offer more than 30 graduate programs, which includes our doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. We have approximately 121 full-time faculty members and a strong network of 20,000 SOE alums. We are proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. At this time, I'm going to hand over the floor to Dr. Bryant. She will introduce herself and present on the Doctor of Education program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Camille Bryant. I'm an associate professor and the interim director of the EdD program. I am trained as a research methodologist with interests in research methods, self-efficacy, as well as program evaluation and the role that contextual factors play in the implementation of educational programs. So on the next slide, you'll just see a few pictures of some of our students, and this is from our summer orientation residency program, which I will talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So the objective of the EdD program, it's designed to prepare an exceptional core of educators and educational leaders who can set a high standard for education and are equipped to meet the myriad challenges associated with improving learning outcomes in both public and private educational environments. So the Doctor of Education degree at Hopkins is ideal for experienced practitioners, so those who seek to augment their knowledge and skills with respect to examining real-world problems of practice within their context of professional practice, as well as creating powerful interventions based on research informing us about what works. And it's also ideal for those candidates who aim to rigorously evaluate changes within their context. So I would say that students begin our program as practitioner scholars and they leave our program as scholar practitioners, where research really is the driver for how they think about, explore, assess, and aim to solve educational problems. So in terms of our program at a glance, our program requires that students complete a minimum of 90 graduate credits beyond the bachelor's degree. A master's degree is required for our program, and generally that includes 30 to 36 credits, which are transferred into the EdD degree. So up to 36 credits can be transferred, are transferred automatically, with the potential for 6 additional credit hours that can be transferred. So a minimum of 48 credits must be completed at JHU. Students apply to specialization areas, and these do vary by cohort, so you want to make sure that you look at the website to determine which specializations are offered. For the 2020 cohort, there are 3 specializations that are being offered. The first is entrepreneurial leadership and education. We're also offering the mind, brain, and teaching specialization, as well as the urban leadership and education specialization. There are additional specializations that won't be offered for the 2020 cohort, but those include online teaching and learning, or instructional design, as well as technology integration for K through 16. So what are some of our program features? This is a rigorous program that's relevant. Students are able to develop and implement powerful interventions that can address a wide variety of educational problems. This program is typically completed within 3 to 4 years. It's also an online asynchronous, offers online asynchronous instruction with some synchronous support. Another important program feature is that the dissertation is taken up within coursework. So as you are going through courses, you will be completing pieces of your dissertation. So in terms of our curriculum structure, there are 4 main areas. So you would take Foundations of Education courses, which includes 12 credits plus electives. You'll also take Applied Research and Evaluation courses that totals 9 credit hours. You also take courses in your specialization area. So you would take 12 credit hours plus electives, and then the Applied Dissertation, which includes 9 credit hours. So in terms of our curriculum and structure, there are transition points where students demonstrate their competency mastery in written and oral assessments. So the year 1 paper is that first transition point. This allows students to examine factors that are related to their problem of practice. So not only are you exploring the literature to determine factors that are related to your problem of practice, but you're also going to empirically explore those factors within your professional context to determine which of those factors are most salient within your context. Another transition point is the comprehensive examination. And this is an oral examination following year 2, and it's focused on the core courses. We also have a transition point related, of course, to the dissertation. And so you would propose your dissertation and defend your dissertation orally with your dissertation advisory committee, and you would also defend your dissertation. So the final and most significant requirement of the EdD degree is the applied dissertation. So this really is the culmination of independently completed but closely interrelated projects that includes the literature review about the problem of practice and those contributing factors of that problem, the empirical study or the needs assessment of those factors within your particular context. These are all components of the year one paper that I spoke about in the previous slide. The remaining chapters are comprised of another literature review where you examine interventions to address the contributing factors that have been determined from the needs assessment. And then you design an intervention and study the effects of the intervention on addressing the factors and the problem. So the goal really is to study a problem of practice, to study that educational problem deeply within your context, and then develop a targeted intervention to address the problem. This requires that you have a strong understanding of the literature related to your topic and a research methods toolkit to empirically examine the problem and the intervention. So the program is designed such that you are working on the chapters within your coursework across those 3 to 4 years. The focus is on a contextualized problem of practice within your professional context. And the applied dissertation is designed for students to make significant change within their professional practice. And there are potential implications for policy changes as well. So in order for students to meet the requirements of the program to successfully navigate these transition points, all leading to the completion of the applied dissertation, it's important that we as a program are intentional about the support that we provide to students. And so there are structures in place just for that purpose. So the online orientation is what students complete prior to matriculating in the fall semester. And so it introduces students to the technology that we use in the program, library resources. It gives them a foundation in terms of research methods topics and training on research ethics. You're also given a course tour. Those are just a few things that you would complete as part of your online orientation. There's also a face-to-face orientation that's usually at the end of July. And there's also a yearly residency in Baltimore. And this is a time where you're able to meet with students from your cohort, with faculty in the program, as well as advisors. This is a time where you'll engage in workshops on various topics to support your work in the program. And this really is an exciting time that students really enjoy because of the connections and the interactions that they're able to have during that face-to-face orientation residency. Another support structure is the faculty cohort lead. So that person is there to help you with navigating courses, to provide general support when you enter the program, and that cohort lead stays with you through your time in the program. You're also assigned an advisor. Your advisor is that individual who's going to be helpful in terms of helping you specifically with your applied dissertation. So giving you feedback as you're going through the coursework and compiling the different pieces of your dissertation. The advisor as well as the instructors are going to be helpful in that. The advisor in particular is also going to be a content expert. So we match students with advisors based on the type of problem, the topic of the problem that you're exploring for your dissertation. So they're helping you to refine that work as you're going through the program. Some other support structures include the dissertation and writing clinic. So the dissertation clinic is designed to provide you with various resources, workshops, synchronous sessions, one-on-one help, all related to research methods. We know that when students enter doctoral programs, there's often a lot of anxiety around statistics and research methods. And so the dissertation clinic really is designed to provide support in that area. There's also support in terms of the writing clinic. And so the writing clinic provides support to help you to improve your academic writing that's necessary for a doctoral degree. Other support structures include library webinars with our librarians, as well as online resources. So we have a program site where you can, where a host of resources are provided to students, as well as individual cohort sites where the cohort lead interacts with the cohort and providing additional support through that online resource. So this is just a picture of our orientation residency. And so as I said earlier, this is one of the support structures that the program offers, and I think one of our most exciting pieces of support, just because students, again, are able to make connections in person with students and faculty members. So this is just a picture of one of our cohorts during that orientation residency time. So the orientation is mandatory for our incoming cohort. So those who are going to be a part of our 2020 cohort, prior to matriculating in the fall, you would attend this mandatory, oh, let me just go back. So prior to matriculating in the fall, you would complete the mandatory online orientation. So these topics include, as I was saying earlier, the technology that we use in our program, research methods topics, libraries, learning about ethics. So that is a mandatory online orientation that you would complete in June and July. There's also a face-to-face orientation, which I talked about earlier. So this happens late July. It's 3 days. And again, like I was saying, this is just an exciting time for students to interact and connect with one another. For those who are not able to attend the face-to-face orientation, they can complete it electronically. So you would be provided with the presentations, and you would want to make sure that you watch them in order to matriculate in the fall. There's also residency each year. So residency is for students from the previous cohorts. And again, that's just another time to connect. Students are provided with workshops that are relevant to the work that they're doing during that year in the program. So for example, when students are getting ready to take their comprehensive exams, one of our workshops would speak to that. And they might go to a panel with students who have already taken their comps to get some insight around that. So the residency really is cohort specific, that's aimed at supporting students as they're going into their next phase of the program. So as you can probably guess, students explore a variety of topics within our program. And so I just wanted to give you a few examples of some of the problems and topic areas that students have explored. So one is an example-based learning to develop, or example-based learning to develop information search skills in higher education in the Arabian Gulf. Another student explored HIV and AIDS infected young adults who are non-adherent with their medication. Another student explored education for diversity, how to ensure teacher success in reaching culturally and linguistically diverse populations. Another topic focused on entrepreneurship and Escribo, an ed tech company in Brazil. Another was fostering self-regulated learning at an independent school. Another was advisement models to support community college student enrollment and completion. And then another was business and education partnership models of endurance. So you can see that from these topic areas, our students come from many different contexts. They are aiming to address a variety of educational problems within our program through that applied dissertation. And our hope is that the tools that we have provided them will allow them to examine that contextual problem, to address that contextual problem with that targeted intervention, and then to continue making educational change once they leave our program.
At this time, we would like to turn it over to our current student, Kaitlyn Moore.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. I am calling in from just outside of Baltimore, Maryland. I live in a city called Frederick, and I currently work in a large K-12 school system in the central office as a specialist for English learners. So when I'm not at work, you all know I'm currently in school. I am in the 2017 cohort, meaning that I am on the homeward stretch here and expecting to complete the program this coming summer. And my specialization is entrepreneurial leadership in education. So that's a little bit about me in my professional practice. I was previously a classroom teacher, and I've since pivoted into the central office specialist space, and I hope to eventually work in policy. So essentially, I wanted to kind of give you an overview of all these things that Dr. Bryant had just gone through from a current student perspective. And so the way I'd like to do that is kind of frame things out through these three guiding questions. Why did I choose JHU's EdD program? What are some of the highlights and benefits of being in this program? And then give you all some helpful tips to think about as you consider embarking on this new phase of research and scholarship. So when I think about why I chose Johns Hopkins EdD program, a couple of things come to mind. First, I was particularly drawn to the fact that this is an applied doctoral degree, meaning that it is really tailored towards practitioners who are working in current education contexts and beyond, as you saw in some of those dissertation examples. The types of students that come into this program are from all different types of backgrounds, but really, the applied degree offers a unique opportunity to continue to work in real contexts and use the scholarship and research that you get from this program to guide that work and sort of implement meaningful change long term. The other reason that I chose this program is because Johns Hopkins is a renowned, prestigious R1 research institution. And part of the reason I was drawn to that is really because of the rigor of the program. It is a highly respected program, and this would offer you access to some of the most well-known researchers in the world of education and your context that are out there, which is a really great learning opportunity. In terms of the program highlights, I know that Dr. Bryant just kind of walked you through some of them, and you'll hear a few of the same ones from me. Really, the first one that comes to mind is faculty. I have had the pleasure of working with some incredible faculty in my couple of years that I've been in the program so far. And the level of support and knowledge that you get from Johns Hopkins faculty is unparalleled when you look at some other programs. But not just that, it's really the level of support. So there is really quality teaching that goes along with the type of scholarship and research that you'll be doing in this program. The next piece that is really a highlight of the program, I would say, is the networking. Our cohorts, as I mentioned, really include diverse groups of people from all walks of life and professional contexts. And I know, for example, in our 2017 cohort, we have people who live all over the world. We have a president of a university, we have teachers, we have leaders in the business world, entrepreneurs, military folks. So really you get a chance to connect with people who are like-minded in a lot of ways that you might never otherwise have had a chance to connect with and share ideas with. Which is a really interesting way to learn. And that's one of the benefits of working in this sort of asynchronous learning space with some synchronous components is you really rely a lot on your cohort and you get to know them quite well and you get to know their research quite well. And it really offers you an opportunity to learn new things and kind of get outside of your own context and apply learning as you go in some really creative ways. That said, when you think about the level of support and engagement with faculty and also with your cohort peers, I will point back to what Dr. Bryant said about residency and orientation. It is a really great opportunity to connect with people in person, which can sometimes feel a little bit tricky in an online learning environment. So the residency piece is a really important highlight to the program if you're able to attend. It gives you some great opportunities to get face time with those faculty members and get the supports you need, and also build some lasting friendships and professional working relationships as well. The other piece that I would highlight in terms of the program is really the program structure and the coursework. As I mentioned, it is highly rigorous coursework, but that's really a highlight of the program for me because it allows you to learn to think differently. The opportunity to go through something like oral comprehensive exams really changes the way that you think and respond and articulate your research and ideas. So it's challenging, but in a way that really merits or lends to some growth, some personal and professional and research growth. In terms of the program structure, it's also very helpful because, as Dr. Bryant kind of alluded to, there are certain course deliverables that help to chip away at some of the pieces of that dissertation over the course of the program. So you won't walk out of courses with full, polished, ready to go chapters of your dissertation, but many of the courses provide built-in supports through some of those final application assignments that later become really key parts to that dissertation or even a dissertation chapter. So it's really helpful for those of us who work in the current education space and have lots of things that we're balancing outside of our life and jobs and school. So allowing us to work on the dissertation as we go through the program is really helpful as well. Just checking my notes to see what else I have here. The structure of the dissertation is also a program highlight for me. As Dr. Bryant said, there are 2 literature reviews, and really the focus of this applied degree, this applied dissertation research, is to look at problems deeply in your context and think about ways that you might be able to intervene and then support that intervention work with research and really high quality, rigorous research methodology. So that is part of the rigor of the program, and it also really lends itself to getting a good product, a good dissertation product at the end. Finally, I want to be mindful of your time and make sure you have time for questions, but I would like to touch on some helpful tips if you are really considering this program. There are a couple of things you might want to consider up front. The first, I would say, is to expect that level of rigor that I mentioned and be ready to really commit to your studies. This is not a master's degree program, and it can be quite a transition going from that type of work. So it's really allows you to think deeply and differently, which requires a certain level of commitment to your studies and making sure that you are really engaging deeply with the course. And part of doing that coursework is managing your time and finding your network to support. Particularly, I think it's important to find people that you connect with closely, both in your cohort and then also those faculty members. There are some key faculty members that you will get to know early on in the program who will be great resources for you as you go through your dissertation writing and your dissertation chapters. But because the program is so rigorous and requires such a deep level of commitment, finding that network is really crucial to finding success in the program and using it as a support. And then my last little piece of advice is sort of goes back to why I chose Johns Hopkins for this program, and that's really going beyond the checklists and the due dates to take advantage of what's available in this program. Part of the reason I'm sure you all are also drawn to this program is the Johns Hopkins bank of resources, faculty, and the program's reputation. And with that comes all kinds of unique opportunities to engage with researchers, policy, and new emerging ideas in whatever field you work in. So if you really give yourself the gift of engaging deeply and going beyond checklists and grades, this type of program really offers some unique learning that can shift your work and your focus and the way you think long term. So if you have any questions, I'll stick around through the end of the session, but that's sort of my 2 cents as a current student in the home stretch.
Thank you, Kaitlyn. So now moving on to the application requirements. Applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on our website. Keep in mind there is an $80 application fee when you submit your application. Next, you will need an updated resume. Your personal statement should not exceed more than 750 words. Please visit our website for additional information on your personal statement. Moving on, you should submit 3 letters of recommendations. These letters should include at least the following: a professor with whom the applicant worked in his or her master's program who could speak to the applicant's competency to conduct rigorous scholarly work, and a school organization official who can attest to the applicant's qualification to pursue a doctorate degree. In addition to that, this particular person would also share support for the applicant's area of research, which is the problem of practice. One question that we get often is, what if, I've been out of school for a while, I'm not able to contact not able to get an academic letter of recommendation. And we understand this program. We do have a lot of applicants who have been out of school for a while. They've been working for many years, now deciding on to get their Doctor of Education. We do accept a second professional letter of recommendation. So again, if you have any concerns about that, again, feel free to reach out to our admissions office, and the contact information will be shared on the slide. But like I said, we do accept a second professional letter of recommendation for those who have been out school for a little bit and then again not able to reach out to their professors from the past. Next, the GRE is not a requirement for admissions consideration to the EdD program. It is optional for an applicant to submit a GRE test score as part of the application. However, submission of a GRE test score is an opportunity for an applicant to present additional evidence of the quantitative and verbal skills required for the doctoral level study. Official transcripts. We need all official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. Again, keep in mind this is from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. Lastly, all applicants will be asked to complete a virtual interview after submitting their application. Some key dates to keep in mind. The EdD application is open for fall 2020 admission. Application deadline is January 30, 2020. Please keep in mind we need all supporting materials submitted by this date. Applications will be reviewed from February to mid-March. Finally, admissions decisions will be released mid-March. There are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit an IELTS or TOEFL score, and if your degree was completed outside of the US, you will need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. Additional information can be found on our website. Based on the 2019-2020 base tuition is $4,374 per 3-credit course for the first year of the program. Please keep in mind this excludes textbook, course materials, graduation fee, and registration fee. Please note additional fees apply and are charged separately from tuition. We encourage you to view our tuition and fees page on our website for the most up-to-date information about tuition and fees so that you can understand the complete picture of the costs associated with becoming a student here at Johns Hopkins School of Education. If you're interested in applying for financial aid, we strongly encourage you to apply for financial aid when you start your application. Please note the recommended submission of the FAFSA application, which is next year, March 15. There are also limited endowed scholarships available. Please visit our website if you have any questions relating to financial aid. One scholarship that I just skipped over, we also have the merit-based scholarships, which this one, no application is required. This is based, the Doctor of Education Faculty Committee will review your application and choose the ones who are selected merit-based scholarships. If you have any questions relating to your application, please feel free to email or call us. And here are your point of contact. So for admissions coordinator, I'm sure you've already had some contact with our admissions coordinator, Tanya McMillan. And for any academic program related question, please contact Kathy Chow. Thank you for attending the Doctor of Education virtual webinar. At this time, Dr. Bryant and I would like to open up the floor for questions.
So the first question is by Kimberly. She says, I want to study mental health in high achieving schools. Is this a topic that would align with MBT concentration? So it may or may not. It depends on the problem that you're wanting to explore specifically. But the MBT specialization really focuses on the application of cognitive theories and neuroscience to a problem of practice. And so if you are, for example, wanting to examine those with mental health illnesses and applying cognitive theories and neuroscience to maybe their educational outcomes or the problem that you're wanting to explore, then I think the MBT concentration or specialization might be a good fit. I would also recommend, I will put this name into the chat box as well, but Dr. Ranjini Janbul is our MBT specialization lead. And so if you have specific questions about the MBT specialization, she would be a great person to reach out to.
Next question we have is, what are the final specialization areas for this coming year?
So the final specializations are ELE, Entrepreneurial Leadership and Education, MBT, which is Mind, Brain, and Teaching, and the Urban Leadership and Education specialization.
Our next question from Carmela, does a degree include a principal license? If I graduated from a master's 10 years ago, do you still need a recommendation from a professor?
Yes. Our program does not offer a principal licensure. It's not a licensure program. In terms of the letter of recommendation, just echoing what Sion talked about earlier, if you have graduated and it's been a while, you can still you can have a professional recommendation, an additional professional recommendation, but that person would still need to speak to your ability to engage in rigorous scholarly work and your ability to pursue a doctoral degree.
The next question we have is, do you have to have the problem of practice when you apply?
Yes, yes, as part of your personal statement, you need to clearly articulate your problem of practice, as well as what you believe those contributing factors are to your problem of practice. So what are kind of the drivers, the factors or relevant causes to your problem of practice? And this is important because all of the work that you do in our program is centered around your problem of practice. And so it's important that you've thought that through, and that we can make sure that your problem of practice is a good fit for our EdD program.
The next question, since the program is since the program is mostly online, how does the writing and dissertation clinic work, especially concerning research methods?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like there's a two-part question, but Dr. Bryan, I'll let you answer the first part.
Sure. So because our program is online, we offer asynchronous and synchronous opportunities for students to receive support. So in terms of the writing and dissertation clinic, we have online resources for students. So if you have a question around qualitative analysis, we have a site that takes you to articles and books related to qualitative analysis that you can read at your leisure. We also offer, so that's kind of on the asynchronous side. In terms of the synchronous opportunities, the research methods faculty hold workshops, and so those are in-time workshops that are scheduled throughout the semester so that students can engage in work with their peers and with a faculty member and ask questions in time. The same is true for other types of synchronous sessions that may not be a workshop, but just a time where the research methods faculty may be explaining a topic or concept in depth, so that students can ask those questions in time. And we also offer one-on-one sessions, and so that may be through a phone call or through Zoom. So that is where a student may have a particular question, and so, for example, I, as one of the research methodologists, may schedule that time with the student, and we would just have a phone conversation or get on Zoom and have a face-to-face virtual conversation to answer any questions that the student has. So there are synchronous and asynchronous opportunities for that help and support. So how does the Johns Hopkins program create a sense of community and support when we only meet 3 days a year, compared to other programs who are meeting 3 days a month? So that is a good question. So within your coursework, I would say there's several layers to this. One is by having a cohort lead. The cohort lead is going to engage students within that cohort with using asynchronous and synchronous methods to kind of create this cohesive community of practice. And so That might mean that maybe once a month, the cohort lead has synchronous sessions to just kind of talk through different pieces of the program or where students are, or explaining things that are necessary as students are moving through the program. It might mean that students are that they're giving out announcements. Some cohort leads have a community page where students can ask questions and get feedback and build community that way. Some cohorts have an advisory committee, and so the student advisory committee is reaching out to members of the cohort and bringing that information back to the cohort lead to help that cohort lead make decisions about what topics may need to be covered in sync sessions and things of that nature. So that's one way that community is developed. The other way is through our coursework. And so through the coursework, students are, as I'm sure this isn't uncommon, but students are engaging in discussions with their peers. They're also engaging in discussions with faculty through an online platform. There's also things like announcements, and some faculty engage or use video announcements just to kind of have that more personal connection with students. And then I think outside of the coursework and through the cohort lead, students also have their own sense of community. So students might have a Facebook cohort page, or I think that's probably the most common, and Kaitlyn can speak to that as well, where your students are engaging kind of outside of the coursework, outside of the program. They're engaging with each other to build that sense of community.
Great. So the next question we have is from Mr. Flores. I took a master at Hopkins. During the process, all of my credentials were evaluated, including undergrad. When I apply for the doctoral degree, do I still need to submit those again, or can I just submit my master's degree and transcript from Hopkins? So Mr. Flores, I would first, it depends on what year you graduated. Also, if you graduated from the School of Education or a different graduate school within Hopkins. So when you submit your application, again, it will be reviewed and we'll let you know, again, just based on kind of what I just mentioned in the beginning.
Okay, so the next question is, I believe her name is Sakina. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But how are the comprehensive exams done remotely? Great question. So the comprehensive exam is an oral exam, and you can take it remotely by really through Zoom. And so there are a lot of students who are remote, and we use Zoom as an online platform to conduct those comprehensive exams.
The next question we have from Stacy is the program geared more towards educators in K-12 or higher ed?
So I would say both. We actually just did a kind of review of our students' dissertations, and what came up was that many problems of practice were focused on topics around higher ed. And so our program really is designed for that kind of K through 16 educator, not only in K through 12, but also at the higher ed level.
Another question we have is, would the program work on private corporate education? Another question is, can you publish to journals as first author?
I'm not sure what is meant by private corporate education, but so depending on the area of research that you're interested in, you can publish as a first as a first author. So I'm assuming this is being asked in terms of if the advisor would be the first author if you're working on something together for publication. That's always a decision between you and the advisor, but it's certainly not out of the ordinary for students to publish to journals as the first author coming out of the program.
Our next question from Camila again. What do most students who complete this program go on to do?
So our objective is for students to be leaders within their professional practice. So that takes many forms. Sometimes students remain in their current position, but they're able to apply what they've learned in our program to have a larger impact on the educational problems that they see within their profession. Some go on to teach. Some have become adjuncts within our program. Some advise within our program. Depending on, again, where students are, some go on to become professors. Some go on to become leaders within their professional practice. So maybe from going from a teacher to someone at the district level who's leading teachers. We recently had a student who went from being a professor within a university to the president of a university. So it really does vary.
So our next question relating to graduation rate. So what is the graduation rate of this program?
So our retention rate is between 75 and 80%, and our graduation rate is at this point is between 60 and 70%.
All right, wonderful. The next question we have is for Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn, we have a prospective student wanting to know, can you describe how the program fosters cohort connections and a community of learners?
Hi, everybody. That's a great question. And it goes back to, I think, one of Dr. Bryant's responses that there are a lot of ways that students kind of manage this on their own, and then there are some program structures that do it. So program structures for fostering students and cohort connections are really, within your coursework, within group assignments, really diving into some of the content in discussions and synchronous sessions in your courses. And then also, of course, we have residency and orientation. In addition to sort of that coursework related type of connection, oftentimes, like Dr. Bryant mentioned, there are additional opportunities to engage. So our cohort has a cohort advisory board. There's a group of us who kind of collect questions from others in the cohort and then share back responses as a group of sort of cohort leaders. And then in addition to that, we've really made a lot of our own connections. So we have a WhatsApp group chat that goes almost 24/7 with discussions on coursework, research, support for one another. We also have some smaller groups that came out of some of those residency and coursework things that have really remained throughout the program. There's a group of students that I met in my first course in the program, and they ended up being my study group for comprehensive exams. They're sort of my support group. We text and call and meet via Zoom. We meet in person around residency time. So there are a lot of ways that the program built it, but then avenues for students to kind of build their own community organically as well.
And the second part question for you, Kaitlyn, how much access do you have to the faculty and your advisor? What is the ratio of student to advisor?
I will let Dr. Bryant answer that piece about the student advisor ratio, but I will say that you have a lot of access to your faculty and a lot of access to your advisors as well. So you are working directly with SOE, Johns Hopkins faculty for all of your courses, and they are very much accessible. That's one of the things that makes online learning in this type of environment work, is that every faculty member that I've engaged with really encourages open communication. We meet one-on-one for phone calls and Zoom sessions, as well as in the larger group during synchronous sessions throughout the course. So there's a lot of content and very, very high-level feedback that you get from your advisor or from your faculty members and instructors on course assignments. And then once you move into year 2, you are assigned your advisor. You start to build out your dissertation committee, and the level of contact that you have with that person really depends on how you all work best together. And I guess that's probably a good place for Dr. Bryant to jump in about what that relationship looks like and what our current ratio is.
Yeah, so our student to advisor ratio is 6-to-1. And really just to echo what Kaitlyn was saying, the advisor really does have an important role in guiding students through our program. And so speaking from example, I'm meeting with an advisee tonight, and I meet with her every week. With some advisees, I may meet with them weekly, or maybe bi-weekly or monthly. It just depends on the level of support that they need. And that's a conversation that happens between the student and the advisor. So throughout the program, the advisor and the student are meeting. Also within the courses, there are students have to talk with their advisor as part of some of the course requirements. And so they have to have conversations with the advisor, get approval for specific pieces of the dissertation, and to let their faculty instructor know that those conversations have happened. So the program not only embeds contact between students and advisors, but it's happening all of the time because of the nature of these embedded components within the courses and the contact between student and advisors that has to happen in order for that to be successful.
All right, wonderful. I will share that we have about less than a minute to answer questions. So quickly, next question is from Connie. Will NAT scores be considered in lieu of GRE? Connie, please keep in mind that the GRE is optional. It is not a required for the admissions process. So any other test scores are definitely not required for admissions for the Doctor of Education program. Next question from Carmela. Does this program offer scholarships for Teach for America alums? Good question. We do not have a specific scholarship for Teach for America alums, but please keep in mind the Doctor of Education online program, we do offer limited endowed scholarships and merit-based scholarships. The next question from Slade is, where can we find the endowed scholarship application? The endowed scholarship application can be found on our website. If you go under financial aid on their tab, then you'll find the information and the application. And the last question we will take, it is 5 p.m. How many students are admitted each year and how many are in each specialization? Dr. Bryan, if you can answer that one.
Yeah, so we admit between 70 and 80 students every year. And so each specialization on average has about 23 to 25 students each.
All right, wonderful. So I know that there were some remaining questions. If the remaining questions, we will be more than happy to answer your questions. Please email us, and I'm going to actually go back to the slide with our contact information. So any admissions related questions, please contact Tanya McMillan, and program related question to Kathy Chow. Thank you for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We look forward to hearing from you, and have a wonderful evening, everyone.